cometido Troy Culver y que había aprendido o cuál era el aprendizaje que había tenido Troy Culver, y era que las personas son un gran activo. Entonces, ¿cómo vamos por acá? ¿Ya estamos listos en la...? ¿Ya? Ok, pues ¿por qué no me avisan? Yo aquí echando el tiempo todavía. ¿Eh? Todavía no está. Ok. Entonces todavía no está, ¿verdad? Entonces, necesito, por favor, que alguien me haga un favor. Aquí en mi lab hay un correo que está enviado para los de la embajada. Hay que cambiarles el link, porque ellos están en el link de inglés, porfa. Ahí si tiene clave, nomás me pasan el dedo y se los pongo porque tiene ahí de táctil. ¿Sí, verdad? A ver, no me muevan la cámara. Ahí está, en mis enviados de Gmail. Ahí está, perfecto. ¿Ya? Muy bien, Maru ya está ahí. Ok, perfecto. Pues bueno, entonces ahora sí, bienvenidos, welcome a los del otro grupo que pues se quedaron ahí como a media transmisión. Bueno, esto es así sucede la tecnología. Y también, por favor, alguien ahí que le pueda explicar a Troy qué es lo que está pasando, porque va a parecer que me estoy robando ahí su tiempo, cuando en realidad estoy aquí tratando de dar el contexto general para arrancar con este siguiente tema. Importante, los que están escuchándolo en inglés, 3 avisos muy breves y muy rápidos. El 13 de enero de 4 a 6 de la tarde tenemos nuestra clase de continuidad de este programa y ahí aquellas personas que no hayan obtenido el 90 de calificación, ahí les vamos a explicar qué hacer y de qué va todo esto. Aviso número 2, súper importante, jueves 16 de diciembre vamos a transmitir desde la Biblioteca Pública del Estado de Jalisco el lanzamiento o el prelanzamiento del libro Empresa Utópica, el negocio de dejar un mundo mejor, que es un libro que tengo ya 3 años escribiendo y que está padrísimo, no porque yo lo haya hecho, pero quedó perrísimo, está muy, muy padre. De 4:30 a 7:30 y tenemos la confirmación de Marisa Lazo, que es Shark en Shark Tank, fundadora y directora general de Pastelerías Marisa, y que ella escribió el prólogo de mi libro. Y tercero, sus acreditaciones van a estar llegando, el día de hoy van a terminar sus exámenes, tienen hasta mañana para las 4 de la tarde para terminar, y tienen hasta el 20, o más bien tenemos hasta el 20 de diciembre nosotros, para enviarles estas acreditaciones porque se va a revisar de una por una. Ya vieron que no somos 300 líderes, somos muchísimos más, ¿no? Que la embajada nos dio chance ahí de becar a muchas más personas y muy agradecidos con esto. Entonces, si ya estamos listos y si ya todo está fluyendo de manera correcta, entonces ahora sí, quiero que nos vayamos al siguiente tema. Acuérdense que en su Welcome Program tienen claramente cuál es el contenido que vamos a ver el día de hoy. Y no se los voy a explicar mucho porque ya quiero irme con Troy. 1, conversaciones difíciles, ese lo va a dar Troy Culver, que ahorita ya se los voy a conectar. La segunda parte se llama adaptación de tecnología post-pandemia, y lo vamos a dar Troy y yo, y hay un tema porque vamos a tener un grupo de discusión con algunos de ustedes que queremos conectar aquí. Y el último tema va a ser la rueda de la comunicación, y terminamos el día de hoy con conclusiones y con un mensaje de nuestro presidente de Coparmex, Carlos Villaseñor. Entonces, pues bueno, sin más preámbulos y bueno, resolviendo todos estos temas tecnológicos que hoy nos están aquí o que nos estaban, ¿no? Conflictuando, quiero darle la bienvenida, and I'm going to switch to English to welcome Troy Culver because he is going to be speaking about the difficult conversations. So Troy, are you there? Yeah, so I can't hear you. ¿No escucho? ¿Yo no escucho? ¿Los demás sí escuchan a Troy? Okay, but it's okay, Troy. It's your time, so please feel free to start with your topic. Thank you very much.
So tonight, for this particular module, we're going to be talking about difficult conversations. And I want to share with you some statistics to get started. 70% of people avoid initiating a difficult conversation. That means only 30% really will take on the initiative to have that difficult conversation. 53% of the people choose to ignore a workplace problem rather than working to solve them. So think about your organization. More than just over half of the people are going to ignore a workplace problem because they do not want to have a difficult conversation to work toward resolving it. And when you're talking about leadership, when you're talking about managers, only 31% of the managers believe that they address or confront difficult conversations well. And that's why we're doing this module, because if only 31% believe that they do it well, That means that 69% have a difficult conversation and don't feel that it went well, feel that it could have went better. So when you're having a difficult conversation, a lot of things can happen. I've heard people tell me that they feel uncomfortable, or they're unsure of what to say or how to have that conversation. Maybe you're out there and you get overwhelmed. You don't even know where to start. Or maybe you become emotional about it and it's difficult to do. Some people even get nauseous. They get sick to their stomach and they can't handle it. Or maybe people get really anxious. Some people are unprepared to do it. They don't know the process on how to handle it. Others, it's very awkward. They don't know how to start the conversation, end it, follow up. Other people get stressed. I mean, all these different feelings and emotions, they're fearful. Some people are scared. It paralyzes them. Some people get very nervous. They're insecure. Maybe people get sweaty and they get sweaty palms, or they start perspiring. Some people get dry mouth, where their mouth gets all dry and they can't even talk. Or you could be one of those people where you're going to have a difficult conversation and your heart starts beating really fast and hard and you don't even know why. Well, all those are internalized physical symptoms of having a difficult conversation. The reason why you have these is because you haven't had a lot of practice. You haven't had a lot of coaching and you haven't been able to do a lot of it in your lifetime, or you've never been taught on what to do and how to look for it. So we're going to cover those things tonight. When you have a difficult situation come up and you need to have a difficult conversation, I want to point out just a couple key things here. Even though you may not like it, you may even hate doing it. It may be something way out of your comfort zone. You got to do it. If you don't do it and you wait, it only gets harder. The longer you put off a problem, the bigger it becomes. Think about a relationship with a significant other. If there's a little problem and you talk about it, it's gone, it's done. But if you avoid talking about that problem, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then becomes a heated argument. And you're like, what are we arguing about? This was like a little problem a little while ago. So once you realize that there's an issue with, a team member, an employee, a supervisor, a manager, set up a meeting, schedule it, address it, get it taken care of. Now, before you have a difficult conversation, I'm going to highlight and cover several things that you want to do in preparation to having a difficult conversation. So one is you need to adjust your mindset. You need to think positively. What can I do to help? I'm going to have a difficult conversation with this person. And as a leader, what's my role? What can I do to help? How can I make this better? What's the goal of the conversation? You need to take time to write down the goal of conversation. Is the goal of the conversation to find out more information? Is it to change trajectory of this person's behavior? Is it whatever it is? What's the goal? Is it to increase productivity, morale, culture? And then what's at stake? If you don't have the difficult conversation, what's at stake? And when you do have it, what's at stake? What's at stake if the conversation doesn't go well? Also, before having a difficult conversation, you need to be able to prepare and figure out what the right time is to have the conversation and location. I've seen too many times where people have a difficult conversation and maybe it's in a public setting, it's in front of other people, or not even intentionally, but other people can hear. They're in the office next door, they're in a close proximity, and they're having a difficult conversation with someone, and that filters out and gets spread amongst everybody and becomes gossip. So you need to make sure you pick the right place, the right time. Be thoughtful about it. Decide exactly what you're dealing with ahead of time. Is this an isolated issue? Did this just happen? And this is the only issue that this employee or manager, supervisors had? Or is this a reoccurring problem? Do you need to go in and figure out all the facts? Is there multiple people involved in this conversation? what is it that you need to deal with when going into it? Again, these are all things that you want to do to prepare to have a difficult conversation. And I think one of the key things to remember is a lot of people lose track when they have a difficult conversation of what they're going to talk about. So I always recommend that people make a list, make a bullet point list of your talking points. When you go in, that way you can just go off on your bullet point list, keep on track, not get distracted. You want to make sure, if you know the employee, which you should, you need to prepare for the rebuttals. Is this an employee that's going to deflect and get you off topic? For example, I heard a manager about a month ago having a conversation with someone, and this conversation was actually because this employee and another employee had a heated discussion, and it was just inappropriate, unprofessional. So the manager had to sit down with the person who initiated the conversation. But when they started talking, the person on the receiving end, they totally deflected and got the manager totally thinking about the other person. They didn't stick on point. The manager didn't go in with a list of talking points. They were not prepared. They didn't know what the goal was. And next thing you know, the manager's going back to the other person, talking to the other person, when in reality, that was the wrong person to talk to, and they just got deflected. So prepare for rebuttals. Is that person going to be defensive? Are they going to be argumentative? Are they going to, no, that didn't happen that way, and you don't understand? And are they going to get in your face and be argumentative? Are they going to shut down? Are they just going to be quiet, not say anything, and just sit there? Are they going to cry? Are they going to use their emotional responses to get you to go easier on them? Are they going to be someone that's just going to say, I'm sorry, lo siento, lo siento, lo siento, I won't do it again? Be prepared for what type of rebuttal, what type of response this person's going to give. And don't be afraid to ask for help. If you know these things ahead of time, and you know, I'm going to go into a really difficult conversation who's going to be very argumentative, get a colleague, get a peer, get another manager, and say, hey, I want to role play this with you ahead of time. And this person's going to be very argumentative with me, and I know it. So can you be argumentative, and let me just kind of practice on you, so that when I do have this conversation, I'll be better prepared. So these are all great things to do before having a difficult conversation. Do you have to do them all every single time? No. But the more that you can do, the better. So again, you want to adjust your mindset. You want to think positively. You want to know what the goal of the conversation is. You want to know what's at stake. You want to make sure you have the right time and location for this conversation. And then you want to know exactly what you're dealing with. Is it an isolated issue? Is it a reoccurring issue? Is it a fact-finding issue? What information do you need to gather to make that informed decision? Make sure you create a list of talking points, and then prepare for rebuttals. I can't tell you how important this is in role-playing the situation out ahead of time, because that takes away all the nervousness. That takes away the angst or the dry mouth or the sweaty palms or whatever happens to you physically or emotionally for a conversation, because you're prepared. So those are all real good key points to have before you have a difficult conversation. Now, unfortunately, you're going to have that difficult conversation. And so what I want to do now is cover a lot of things to do your best to remember during a difficult conversation. Now, I'm going to list probably, 10, 20 different things. You don't have to do them all again, but the more that you can do and the more that you can remember, the better that conversation's going to go. So I would recommend maybe writing some of this down, even the things that we talked about just previously on preparing. So if during a difficult conversation, one of the best things to do is to sit down with that person and to get them to feel relaxed. Don't have them feel tense and nervous. And you do this by stating your goal or your path. Outline the conversation with them. be transparent. Hey, I brought you in, wanted to sit you down. I brought you in because this issue was brought to my attention, or you did this, and I need to talk to you about it. I need to find out, why this happened. You want to make sure that you are calm, you are very polite and respectful. Remember that a difficult conversation is just that, it's difficult. And as a leader or as a manager, you might be very upset with this person. Don't let your emotions get the best of you. Don't raise your voice. Don't get volatile, because that's not going to come across right. Instead, you want to remember to talk softly, not softly, but you want to talk calmly, humbly, politely, respectfully. And something that helps people to remember this is, I'm sure that you've messed up at one point in your life. I'm sure you can remember times where you haven't done something right and you've had to be talked to. Well, put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel? And talk to them the way that you would want to be talked to. Treat them as you would want to be treated. Another thing to remember during a difficult conversation is be observant and maintain self-awareness and very high emotional intelligence. I can't tell you how many times that I see someone talking to someone, or even myself, I've had to have difficult conversations. And whether the person's sitting here, not really caring or looking or distracted or whatever they're doing, you need to be totally aware and observant of how they're responding to what you're saying, because you may need to change gears real quick, and you may need to change your approach, your tactic. You may even have to repeat what you're saying or get their attention and have them acknowledge that you're listening to them. You may have to stop and ask them a question. You also need to be very cognizant and self-aware of your own emotional intelligence. And what I mean by that is your leg bouncing up and down? Are you playing with a pencil or a pen? Are you fidgeting? Are you not looking at them? Are you have your arms crossed? Are you angry? How do you look? And when I said earlier to role play this out, that's truly one of the best ways that you can get good at this, because when you role play it with someone else, they can actually tell you, hey, as you were given the conversation, I felt that you were really listening to me, and I felt that you really cared about me and you wanted to help me, but you also wanted to correct my behavior, and you were very candid with me. Or they might say, you know what, I was distracted. You were all over the place. You didn't make sense of what you were saying. I don't really think you cared about me. You had an angry look on your face, and I don't really feel comfortable talking to you. There is so much that a leader needs to learn when you have a difficult conversation. And not only just leaders, this applies to relationships outside of work as well. Another thing you need to do is you don't make it personal. You never bring your emotions into it. I think the worst thing that I would ever tell somebody is, I'm disappointed in you. You have a lot of potential, and you just haven't lived up to it, or you messed up, whatever. But I never make it personal. You always want to stick to the facts, and you want to stick to just the facts of the incident and make sure you're covering that well. And don't jump to conclusions, and never assume when you're having a difficult conversation. So if you're talking to someone, and I don't know, we talked 2 days ago about the tardiness, right? So if someone's late, here's an example. This was a while back, but as an example, one of the managers had a person that was always on time, and they just started showing up late for like the last month. Well, what happened was the manager went in there and wrote him up, said, this is unacceptable. You cannot be late. You have been late 5 times this month. The first time was 15 minutes late. The second time was 20. The third time was 25. The fourth time was 30. And this time was 35. You cannot be late. So I'm writing you up. If you are late again, I'm terminating you. That's one way to do it, but it's not effective. And it definitely shows no empathy toward the employee. But that same manager went back and had a similar conversation later with another person after doing the training. And they went back and said, hey, I noticed that you've been on time a lot. You're a great employee. But this month, I've noticed you've had a pattern lately of being late. And on such and such date, you were this many minutes late. Such and such date, you're this many minutes late. They gave the facts and they said, this is not like you. What's going on? Is there anything I can help you with? Has something changed in your life? Then that person proceeded to tell the person that, yes, my wife can't take the kids to drop our children off at daycare, and now I have to do it. And it's out of my way coming to work. And the only time I can drop them off is at 8 o'clock. So when I drop them off at 8 o'clock, now I have to cut across town. And if traffic's okay, I can get there by 8:15. But if traffic's bad, it's 8:30 or 8:40, and I can't get there on time. And so then the manager's like, okay, he's a good employee. He's doing well. Let me see what I can work with him. If I change your start time to 9 o'clock, would you be able to make it without being late? And if I change it to 9, can you stay an hour later so you can still get in your full 40 hours? Well, that employee was super appreciative and understood that the manager cared about him and said, absolutely. Change the schedule to 9. Never had a problem with the employee. Now, once his wife was able to take his kids back to daycare, he went back to the manager and said, hey, my wife can take the kids to daycare now. So can I go back to 8 o'clock? And the manager's like, absolutely. So when you have, a difficult conversation, again, you got to find out the why. You got to seek clarity, ask a lot of questions, and be curious. That's your job as a leader. Remember, we talked earlier, you got to figure out, what do you want the outcome to be? Think about the employee. Think about how they want to be treated. So you want to also provide clear and specific details or examples. Keep it fact-based and try to show as much empathy as you can. Be clear and specific with your communication and expectations. So as you go through this, and we're going to talk on the last module today, really about communication, but I can't stress this one enough, that you've really got to be very clear with your communication and your expectations. So if someone's coming in late, or if someone had a policy violation, or someone had, whatever issue they had in your organization, in your company, you're having that difficult conversation with them. You need to let them know that it's unacceptable, that this is the way you want them to operate, this is the expectations, and failure to operate will result in, and be clear. Let them know. Also let them know you don't want that to happen. You want to help them to succeed. So I'll just kind of recap this. There's more, but you always want to state your goal, your path. Make sure you're calm, you're humble, you're polite, you're respectful. Be observant, maintaining emotional awareness of yourself and the other person. Don't make it personal. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't assume. Make sure you ask a lot of questions. Be curious. Seek clarity. Make sure you provide specific details that are fact only. Show empathy. And be clear and precise with your communication. Now, there's also more things to do. I mean, there's a lot of things to do when you're having a difficult conversation. But here's some more things for you to think about and to consider when having a difficult conversation. Don't answer for them. Give them time to respond. I've seen time and time again where a manager will sit down with someone and, why are you late? What happened? Why'd you do this? Oh, you did because of this? And the person never even said that. They never even answered the question, but the manager is just jumping in and answering for them. Don't do that. Give them time to answer. Give them time to respond. And if you ask a question and you say, this is untypical of you, I'm not sure what's happening. What's going on in your life that has created this behavior? Tell me. I want to help you. And then pause, stop, close your mouth. Don't say anything. And wait and listen. And maybe if they're unresponsive, maybe you can say, it's okay. Tell me what's going on. I want to help you. Reassure them that you're not there to beat them across the head with a 2x4. We're not authoritarian or dictatorship management style. You want to do servant leadership, and you want to share with them, I care about you and I want to help you succeed. So you need to invite them into a dialogue, and you have to do that by actively listening. You have to really listen. So when you have a person that's a deflector, they may try to talk about things that happened in the company a week ago or 3 days ago that aren't even related to the situation you're talking to them about. And at that time, you could make a quick note and then circle back and say, I heard what you said about this, and we'll talk about this in a second, but right now we're focusing on this, and this is the issue at hand. But then at the end of the conversation, say, earlier in our conversation, you mentioned this, and you mentioned this as a concern, something that was bothering you, or something that is, affecting the operations or the retail store, whatever it is. And I'd like to set up a meeting with you so I can do a follow-up conversation so we can focus our time and talk about that. Would you be open for that? Another thing to remember when you're having a difficult conversation is, unlike what I'm doing right now, just talking all the time, you don't want to talk all the time. And you want to think of it as the more that you can listen to what they're saying, the more you can learn. And then the more you can learn about what they're saying and what's going on, the better you can find a solution. And that's really the goal of a difficult conversation. A difficult conversation needs to happen early on. It should not happen late. Remember, you want to deal with it right away. And when you do come to exploring different options or different solutions, make sure that employee is involved with it. Just like the example I gave with that manager that had the employee with the childcare issue. Explore options together. What would 9 o'clock work? Would coming in later work? Could this be a solution? And get their response, get their engaged. No, 9 o'clock wouldn't work, but 9:15 would. Okay, well, I think I can make that work on the schedule, and I'll have John Doe come in to cover you at that time, and I'll just move your schedule out a little bit. You want to make sure as a leader that throughout the conversation, you continue to offer support, you continue to offer assistance and reassure them and saying, I want to help you to succeed, and I want to help you get better. And develop and agree to an actionable solution, but also an actionable follow-up. So a lot of people miss this, right? They have a difficult conversation, they have it, they get everything done, get everything said, but then they miss the follow-up. Well, if we change their schedule to 9 o'clock, great. A couple of days go by. Hey, John, how's that schedule working out for you? I see that you're getting here 10 minutes early. Is everything working? I wanted to touch base with you. Yep, it's great. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being so understanding and appreciative. Okay, great. Just make sure that you don't show up late. You know what's going to happen. So, yep, okay, got it. Or if it's maybe an employee needs soft skills, right? And they are unable to interact properly with other employees, and there's some cultural issues. Maybe that follow-up involves, you know what, I want to set up a weekly meeting with you, and I want to go over maybe some cultural things, maybe some soft skills with you, and I want to help you, and I want to tackle these one-on-one so that over time you can get through this and get better. I'm here to help and support you. Now, during a difficult conversation, some people they paint a false hope. They have a hard time saying anything bad to anyone. Everything's got to be great, and they don't want to have that hard conversation. So they say everything's, lovely, lovely, lovely. You're the best employee. You're awesome. Great. Thank you very much. But really, you need to be very transparent and be honest about both outcomes. So those outcomes could be good. Those outcomes could be bad. that you need to be very open and honest about the outcomes, because they want to hear that from you, because that's going to build credibility and that's going to build trust with your character when you are conveying to them that you want to help them, but you're also not giving them a false hope. Now, not all difficult conversations go well, even if you are prepared, even if you do all these things that I am suggesting to you to do during a difficult conversation. Sometimes those conversations, they escalate. They start getting out of control. Maybe that other person can't control their emotions. They can't get a grip of it. They can't, hold themselves down to be able to have you talk to them. One, try to refocus. Try again. Try to pull the conversation in. And that may work. That may just be enough. But if it doesn't work, be smart enough to realize that maybe you need to call a timeout, and maybe you need to reschedule another meeting when they're not so emotionally charged that it's going to be ineffective for you to have that difficult conversation. So I'll just kind of recap on some of these points again. So during a difficult conversation, don't answer for them, give them time to respond, interact with them, and actively listen. You will learn more from listening to them to be able to find out a better solution, explore options together, offer your support, your assistance, develop and agree actionable solutions, and follow up. Don't forget the follow up. And don't give the employees false hope. Just be real, be candid with them. And if it does escalate, remember, try to pull it back in line. But if it doesn't work, as a leader, you can call a timeout and reschedule and do this at a later time. Now, after the difficult conversation, some people are like, whew, it's over, I'm done. As a leader, you're not. It's not over. You're not done. So here's a few things that you have to do as a leader after a difficult conversation. First and foremost, you have to document. You have to document, whether it's with your HR department or whatever type of documentation your company uses. You have to make sure that you document and capture this conversation with date, time, what was said, what you covered, in case anything would come up and you would need it. Sometimes it could just be a quick email to yourself. I know I used to do that a lot because I always had email. I always had my phone. I always had something readily available. So I would send an email to myself. I would put note to file for X manager, X supervisor, whoever, and topic, discussion, and I would outline everything. And then I would email it. And then when I got back to my computer, I would file it. And then if anything happened, I could come back and say, you know what, on September 10th at 3:30 p.m., I talked to you about this, and now we're still having the same issue. And remember, whatever it is, but just remember, document. Now, managing a difficult conversation at work effectively doesn't end right after the talk's over. You need to take action too. So that action involves you following up to make sure that that individual is satisfied with the outcome of the meeting. A lot of times they're not satisfied. They're angry, or maybe there's something that you said, even maybe you practiced and you rehearsed and you thought you had it down good. Maybe you still made them very angry. Maybe it's something you did or you didn't do. Maybe you didn't smile. Maybe you, whatever it is, but follow up with them and ask them, how was the meeting? Are you satisfied with our conversation? Are you okay with it? Do you understand everything we covered? I just want to make sure you're good. Now, you will have a follow-up conversation unless, of course, you terminate the employee. That would be the only time you don't have a follow-up conversation, but you always want to have that follow-up conversation. And then let's say that there's a solution that is required on the employee or the manager's part, and you need to make sure they're doing it. You want to ask them, where are you at with what you're working on? Can I see? Can you share with me? Or maybe you schedule a follow-up meeting and talk about it. Okay, great. You're making a lot of good progress. I really appreciate that. And thank you for sharing. Or maybe that, required action is something that you needed to do. Maybe you needed to follow up with someone, you needed to go take care of another issue. Well, you need to get back to that employee, that person, and also share with them your follow-up, because continued follow-up through this process is one, it's going to improve your communication, it's going to build that relationship, and hopefully negate another difficult conversation that happens. It'll hopefully negate you going down the path of, written disciplinary action, termination, because the cost of turnover is a lot more than spending a good quality conversation with someone and helping develop them. So just for a short recap on what to do after a difficult conversation, you want to make sure that you follow up with the individual, make sure they're satisfied with the meeting, with the conversation. And if there's follow-up necessary from the employee, make sure they're doing it, follow up on what they're doing. And if there's follow-up on your part, share with them what you're doing on your part. Difficult conversations are never easy. For those that think you've got it all down, great, but I challenge you, there's always work to do with this. For those of you out there that this is hard, I do get nervous, I do get dry mouth, I do get sweaty palms. Connect with people and role play. Work with other people and practice and practice and practice. It will help you out a lot, and ask for their feedback. I remember going through a Zig Ziglar class, and it was an 8-week class where you had to go and do all this stuff. But one of the most valuable things I learned from that is we had to have difficult conversations, but we were filmed. So there was a camera on myself giving the difficult conversation, and there was a camera on the employee. And then afterwards, there was probably 100, 150 people that critiqued how I did having that difficult conversation. And watching myself on the video and seeing what I did, and not truly being aware of all the things from an emotional intelligence standpoint that I was doing, not doing, really honed in on my skills, really helped me. Now today, after having hundreds, thousands of difficult conversations with people, it's not that hard. I don't shy away from it. But again, statistically, 53% of your people in the organization avoid it, and only 30-some% of your managers actually feel that they did a good job. So it's something to take serious, and it's something really to work on. It helps the company and the organization out an awful lot when things go well with that. Jose, back to you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much for this presentation. We had some technology issues at the beginning, so we missed the first 3 minutes of your conversation. I mean, we could understand in English, but the Spanish interpreter, that is Maru, she didn't got the audio. So if you can just try to dig in a little bit more about the beginning, the talking about the preparation process. We still have maybe 3 more minutes to talk about this, and then I want to do a wrap up about the topic.
Sure. What exactly did you miss on it?
Since the beginning to the first 3 minutes, you were talking about preparation and talking about like the general concept. Mm-hmm.
I'll try to go quick.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So 70% of people avoid having a difficult conversation. So that's a lot of people that avoid having it. 53% of the people in the workplace in your organization statistically ignore dealing with a problem, having a difficult conversation. So they ignore it. And shockingly, only 31% of all the managers feel that they address difficult conversations well, which means that 69% believe that they didn't address it. And then I also talked a lot about the different types of emotions that you feel, sweaty palms, dry mouth, awkward, nervous, increased heart rate, nauseous. But then when you steps to prepare for having a difficult conversation, you want to make sure you have the right mindset. You want to think positively. What can I do to help the person? And what's the goal of the conversation? What is at stake? when's the right time and location, and decide exactly what you're dealing with. Is this an isolated issue? Is it a reoccurring issue? Is it a fact-finding issue? Do I just need to get more information because I really don't understand what happened? Maybe it's with multiple employees and you've got to try to figure that out. And one of the things that I always recommend to everybody is create a list, create a bullet list of your talking points, because too many times people will try to derail you or get you off track, whether it be deflecting, emotionally crying, being angry, arguing with you. So if you have a list of talking points, that helps you. And then prepare for rebuttals. Work with another manager, work with another leader in understanding how to respond to a person. If you're talking to a person, you should know them. They're on your team. You probably hired them. So you should know if they're going to be someone who's going to argue. You should know if they're going to be someone who just shuts down. You should know if someone that's just going to say, lo siento, lo siento, lo siento, and I won't do it again, and they try to end the conversation. You should know if they're going to be deflecting. Well, if you know their character makeup and you know how they're most likely going to respond, get with another manager, get with another peer, and say, hey, I've got to have this difficult conversation. Can I role play it with you and you give me some feedback? And this person's very argumentative, so please be very argumentative with me. That way I know how to handle those rebuttals. So don't be afraid to ask for help. So that's kind of the first few slides there, Jose.
Yes. That was it. Perfect. So I just want to, we're going to have time maybe for only one question because I want to do a wrap up and I'm going to go very quick. So Ale, do you have one question that we can go to? We have a lot of questions, but time, it's almost over. So maybe one question and then I'll do the wrap up, please. Yes.
We can go with the one from group A.
It needs to turn it on. Yeah.
What to do when you realize that your team is lying to you, you lose the trust, and how to handle that conversation with them?
Well, if you have an individual employee that is lying to you and lost your trust, there's a lot of different stragies. So I use a tactic called Wicklander. So Wicklander is more of an interviewing or interrogating tactic. But the principle of that is really to go in and ask the person, look, I know that, you have been lying. I know that these things have happened. I just want to understand why, because this is what it's doing to the organization. This is how it makes me feel. And this is the impact that it's having on everyone. And I can't have that. So you just be very transparent. And hopefully they agree that, hey, you caught me, I'm not going to do it anymore. And let them know, hey, if this continues, then it's going to result in a write-up or more disciplinary action, or it's going to lead to termination.
Yeah, so that was the question that we had time for, and I'm going to do a wrap up because technology played us a bad game today, but we are on time. So you talk about difficult conversations, and I put this sign because it's difficult conversations. We as leaders, we all have to have difficult conversations with our team, with our peers, maybe with our supervisors, with our bosses. We need to prepare. I think that's one of the most important things that you just said. We need to prepare that. To have that conversation that we're planning to have, and we need to observe. We need to observe the other person, observe the situation, observe the context, and obviously listen. Listen is very important because you just said you're going to learn more if you listen what the other person is saying. So you need to remain calm, humble, polite, and be very respectful. So that was something very important. You need to be respectful with the other person. And this is something that I just said in the first module as well. Then these are two different people. The plan and the goal is to explain options together, to have conversation. So that's something very important. If you are going to have this conversation, you need to listen to the other person, you need to observe, and you need to explain options together. So then you need to follow up with that person. It's not only to have the conversation, you need to follow up with that person, and more if that person is a person that is a member of your team, because you're going to be working with that person, maybe for a couple of years. Then you need to take responsibility of the things that you are saying, indicating of the orders that you are giving to that person. You need to document, and I put this sign times 3, document. That's so important. And you just said through documents, papers, emails. I mean, like, we need to have that proof that the conversation happened. Then we need, you talk about accountability. That's something very important. We need to make that person accountable of the things that she or he said, did, or behaved. And obviously, this is a very important rule. No assumptions. So, you just said we don't need to assume anything. We need to have these conversations. We need to listen to the other person and do not assume anything. So this will be the wrap up of the things that you just said. Troy, I don't know if you want to add something else about this.
No, great wrap up. I think difficult conversations, they need to happen. The more timely you can make them happen, the better. Okay. So don't wait. Just jump in and do it. And I'd really encourage everyone on this call to practice with someone, pair up with someone, get a mentor, and go through some role playing. It will help you out a lot.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. So now we're on time. We're gonna go to the break, but I have a very good news for people. Even if you are not asking questions in this module, we're gonna have a different dynamic for the next module. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have one leader per group that is gonna come, and he or she is gonna join into the conversation with Troy and with me in the next module. So we need a volunteer per each group. That the order is just to write in the group if you want to get into the conversation with Troy and with me, because in the next module we are gonna have this group discussion about technology and adaptation after COVID. So even if you didn't ask your question in the past module, in the next module, there are not gonna be only questions, there are gonna be conversations. So please, if you want to join us in the next module with a conversation, just let the leader know, and then they are gonna give you the instructions. So let's go to the break, and we're gonna be back at 5:05, and let's continue with this program that we are very happy to live stream with you.
Thanks.
So now we are back finally. We think technology now is, like organized with us. So we're gonna continue with our 8th module, that is use of technology after COVID or post-COVID. And for this, I want to welcome again Troy, because we're gonna talk about 5 different topics. We're gonna talk about home office, manage productivity, something super important, virtual hiring or interviewing. We're going to talk about virtual engagement and motivation. Yesterday, we talked about motivation, but right now we want to know how to do this in a virtual area. And finally, we're going to talk about tools and equipment for virtual work. So welcome, Troy. Just I want to see you here in the camera. I don't know. Yes. There you are. So first, talk about home office, and just to explain to the audience the dynamic that we're going to follow. We're going to talk about these topics just in a general term, in a general concept, and then we want to hear from them, because we don't have all the answers. You just said that to me this morning, and that's something very important. So we want to know from them what they are doing in their companies, what they are doing in their teams, and what questions can they have for us. So I just want to kick off with the home office topic, talking about the pros and cons. There are a lot of pros and a lot of cons also when we talk about home office. I would say flexibility is something that I just discovered when with this pandemic. It was something, to be very honest with you, it was something new for me, home office, because I have stores, so we have to be in person, in the office. So it was not something that very common for me, the home office. I define myself as a very structured person, and after COVID and with this technology thing, I'm more, flexible. So, for example, this program, this is the first time that we are, having this personal contact with the staff. So we planned all this for a couple of months. It was all virtual. And before COVID, I was so structured and so, in the same line of not moving to digital things. So for me, this is something very important, flexibility. I was, researching about this, and I realized that we have this, after, it was a long time ago, maybe one person decided that the day had to be divided in 3 different times, 8, 8, 8. So 8 hours for sleeping, 8 hours for work, and 8 hours to do whatever, hobbies or free time or whatever. And it was supposedly 8 hours. And with home office, and I say this because it's my personal experience, I've been working, 10 hours, 12 hours, 13 hours, and I don't realize, because I'm, working, and then I'm having lunch, I have my tacos, I have my salad, I have my lunch, and I don't realize, because I'm in my house, I'm in my office, because this is the term. So it's kind of weird in some extent, because I'm working, I'm eating, I'm in my house, I'm sleeping, so everything is mixed. And finally, something that I realized is about these psychological issues also that they are that we as people are having with all this home office thing. That it's about, maybe talking about anxiety, depression, insomnia, things like that, because we are confusing our minds if we are in our job or we are in our house, so everything is unbalanced in my point of view. And I found these 2 statistics very important. So El Economista is a very important newspaper here in Mexico, and said that in the United States of America, 41.6% of the jobs can apply home office. And in Mexico, only 22.3% of the jobs can apply to home office. And it was something very important when I read this, because when you talk about home office, if you want to be in home office, you need to be a person who has education. You need to have technology. You have to have a position of manager. You have to have something like a very good place, So it's something for not for all the people, right? And in Forbes, I found that Mexico is the number one. Mexico is the top country supporting people to do home office in Latin America, and that was something that I found very important and very interesting to talk about this topic with you, because as I just said in the statistics, United States of America, they did have this before the pandemic as a normal thing. In Mexico, it's something that is just like, like getting into the area. But right now we are the country that is in the number one or in the top of implementing these things of home office. So what can you say about home office, Troy?
I think the pandemic has turned the whole world upside down, especially in the world of home office. We've had a lot of struggles. If you're in the hospitality industry or you're in a serving industry, I mean, the doors just closed. Employees couldn't work. They couldn't do anything at home. But outside of that, there's a lot of companies that could still work, still get things done, and people could work at home. But we've encountered a whole new plethora of challenges. People working at home, and I need a desk. I don't like the desk, or I need a chair because my back hurts. So companies are deciding whether they should buy a desk, buy a chair, or I need better Wi-Fi. My internet is not good, so they want to upgrade and do a different internet, or bringing phone systems in and computers and everything else. And then from IT and loss prevention and security, how are you going to protect patients, clients' information? How are you going to make sure all the HIPAA laws are in compliance? And there's a lot of things that are involved with it. I think that you were talking about working more. I have noticed that companies now schedule meetings during lunchtime. 11 o'clock, 11:30, 12 o'clock, 12:30, because you're at home, so you can eat anytime you want to. And so on the flip side, we've also experienced people being technology savvy, and they actually make, since we're doing more virtual meetings and everything like that, they'll actually record themselves for like 30 seconds and then loop it so that they can go outside and play with their kids or go walk their dog, and they're on the meeting, but they're not on the meeting, if you know what I'm saying. So not recommending that, but just sharing with everybody that people will find a way to not work if that's the type of person they are.
And talking about that, when we like when we refer to productivity, it's something hard, I mean, it's something that we need to define how we like prove that our team, they are really working and that they are really doing what they have to do. So I would say the main tool for this is reports and scorecards. I mean, one of the leaders of these groups is Elisa, and she knows that we have this scorecard every week. So we have weekly meetings. I mean, for me, the main, if I can give you just one advice about this, is weekly meetings with scorecards. And with those scorecards, we see the scorecard every week. So she knows the actions that she needs to do every week, and she has the results every time in green, never in red. And she knows that she is doing what she has to do, and she goes to other things, and she doesn't have like a desk, like specific where she needs to be in person. Just in this kind of program, she needs to be here, but she can work. Like wherever she wants to do it. But we need to have this control in somehow with scorecards or reports that can have like this mutual understanding that we are working together and that we are not, like doing bad things during the home office time.
Absolutely. Numbers, scorecards, the data, they'll tell you a story.
Yes.
A profit and loss is going to tell you a story. And it's really navigating that story to the end user or to the individual employee to figure out what type of productivity are they really working. Another thing too, when you're talking about productivity is, does your company have a platform that you can actually see when they're on the computer, what buttons they're hitting, how productive they are, or are they just surfing the internet and watching YouTube videos? So I think this is going to expand our technology into a new realm that I don't think any one of us has really thought about yet. But I do think that keeping track of the productivity and seeing how they're working and what they're doing on their equipment is going to be critical to keep track of.
Virtual hiring, because it's something that you were just talking about, interviewing people and recruiting people and things like that. What can we do when it comes to virtual hiring? What would you say about that?
Take your time. Too you've probably seen the commercials where maybe, I don't know if you have them in Mexico, but here in the United States, they came out with commercials where a guy was interviewing. He was in, a jacket and a tie and everything. And then he went to get up and he was just in his boxers, his underwear, and he was doing an interview. So I think that people still need to take the interviewing process serious, but you as an employer need to set the stage and let them know, hey, this is a real interview, even though it's virtual. I want you to come dressed and prepared for it. Here's the expectations. And maybe if you're used to doing 3 interviews, maybe because it's virtual, maybe you do 4 or maybe you do 5, because you really want to get to know the person, and you can't just do that well enough through virtual. I think in person is so much better.
And I would say maybe these tools are, like some of them, they are free tools like Zoom, Google Meet, there's platforms that you can have, like more professional platforms, not only WhatsApp or doing like that. So say Zoom is a very good platform. Maybe if you can have this paid version will be better, so have this level of professionalism that we want to share with the candidate. And also it could be maybe like to put like real action problems and to ask them how will they act on that action, maybe, or projects that we can just send them through the mail and they can email back about, like analyzing a report or depending on the position, but we can put them into action through the virtual, like area. So that would be another thing that we can do in virtual hiring as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so talk super important. This topic is very important in my company and in my organization about motivation, engagement, with the team. So what can you say about when it comes to virtual things? So maybe if I have here my team, I can just like cheer up and to tell them like stories and to try to share my energy and everything. But what do you do, or what do you recommend when it comes to virtual motivation, putting people together like as a team and doing the job together? But if they work virtually, what can we do?
I think some of the things that I've seen in America that have been successful is using Zoom to do breakout rooms as an example. I don't know if you guys have done that or experienced it, but as you're trying to get your groups motivated, you can control who's going to go in what room, and then give them a topic, give them a project, give them something to solve, give them something to come up with, and then have someone present at the end. So it creates a lot of synergy. The employees really like that because they're engaged with different people, and then it's a small room. So you can put 3-4 people in a room, and it just breaks that screen off so everyone can talk, everyone can collaborate. And then when they all come back together, it seems like they're more motivated and all, they all linked arms together for the common good.
Okay, that's a very good idea. And I would say also these weekly meetings, right? I'm very obsessive with the weekly meetings, but people feel part of the culture and people feel part of the company. If they have meetings with the boss and they know that they are not abandoned, so they are with the boss and they know that, as we said yesterday, they belong to the company, they belong to the team, even if they are in their houses. Also, this you just talked about this in the last module, talking about communication, feedback, so it's important to give feedback to our team, even if they are in the virtual area. So that will be something very important, because sometimes as we don't see the employee like every day in the desk, as we don't have them like in person, we can forget about giving them this feedback. So that's super important. And for me, that's the reason why I like to have these weekly meetings every Monday, because during the week I take notes, about a lot of things that I need to congratulate about and also to give feedback about. So I would say that that's something very important, because the person or the employee that is working with you, she or he feels important, and he or she feels that they are valued, as we just said yesterday. And finally, and just to have this last question before welcoming our guest leaders that we have right now, talking about tools and equipment for virtual work. This is a debate, right? Because this is something that sometimes we can think that as I'm in my house, then company needs to pay for the internet. Company needs to pay for my computer or for my cell phone, right? Because now the cell phone is the main tool for work. So how's in America that concept of home office and the company supporting the employee with these kind of tools, skills, and resources to let them do the work?
From what I've seen is when everyone moved to virtual office, they didn't really think about that. So they knew that, their employees had internet and they knew that they had a computer, or they took their computer home from work. And they just said, just go, just start working. But then what happened is more people were like, like I said earlier, my chair, it hurts my back, or I need a better desk, or I can't sit all day, I need to stand up, I don't have a stand-up desk. And then companies were faced with the decision, okay, how much money are we going to pour into this? How long is this quarantine going to last? How long is this COVID thing going to last? What are we going to do? And in the end, I would say probably 80-90% of the companies did give in and turn around and say, we need to take care of our employees. They're working, they're keeping our company going, we're still making revenue, so we'll provide this stuff. We'll get them, chairs, desks, better internet, whatever they need.
Yeah, and that also applies to the culture, right? That the employee is important, and that we care about the person, not only about the results, but also about the chair, about the desk, about the light, so everything. And also I would say, as we have new challenges, we need to have new skills, new tools, new policies, new everything, So in my company, we started to create new policies about home office because we didn't have these policies. We have manuals and we have a lot of things, but never talking about home office because we are a very in-person company. And something that you just said at the beginning of the questions is about security of information, So there are a lot of positions that they went to their houses and at the end they were not able to have all the information because they were working in banks or financial companies. That information is so confidential and so important and so strict, with this kind of policies and rules that they were not able to do their jobs. So I have a friend of mine who actually works in a bank here in Mexico, and he was like, I cannot do my job in my home office. So my boss sent me to my house, but all the numbers, all the statistics, all the reports, I am not allowed to download to my company. So it's like, I'm not giving you the tools. I'm not giving you the resources. I'm not giving you and also another thing very important is that the boss was very strict with that person. You need to do the job. And he was like, yeah, but I don't have the resources. I don't have the supply to do the report that you are asking me to do. So this is something, it's a debate, and that's the reason why, and this is just the first part of this module. That's the reason why I want to welcome to our 5 leaders that were super brave to get into this call. And I want to welcome Alejandro, Isa, Roberto, and Yuriko, who are here with us, and they are gonna get into the call. And the dynamic is gonna be very simple. We want you to. The dynamic is gonna be very simple. We are gonna ask you to turn off the volume. So they need to turn off their YouTube. Yeah. Okay. Ready. So I can see all of you. So now the dynamic is gonna be very simple. Hello. It's gonna be very simple. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
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 Hi.
How are you guys doing?
Hi, Troy. Hi, José Luis.
So we are gonna ask you please to turn off your YouTube or just to put in mute the YouTube. Please. Ready. Hi again, just to make sure that everything is going well. Hi.
Hello. Hi. Hola.
Hola.
Hi, Troy. Hi, José Luis.
Hello.
Isa, Alejandro, everyone.
My camera. Please. Yeah, so now the dynamic is going to be very simple. We're going to talk about each topic that we had. So we have home office, managed productivity, virtual engagement and motivation, and tools and equipment for virtual work. So please, Troy, lead us to this conversation. The first topic is home office. I don't know if you want to kick off with a first question or just to discuss this topic, because I'm going to stand up and use the whiteboard to start writing things of the ones that you just said.
Sure, absolutely. So I think that there is a big, difference between different countries, different cultures and everything. With the pandemic that's going on, I'd really be curious to find out, what are you all doing with home offices, with your business, with your company? Are you doing a home office? If so, how and what policies have you changed?
Who want to start?
I think I can get started. I
Yeah,
will
please.
use an example.
Perfect.
Go for it.
All right. So I am currently working from home. I work for a company that actually does virtual events. So for us, all the pandemic was, I guess, very convenient, right? And so I work from home. I do get all my equipment. For those wondering, I think there was a question about how do we deal with security? Well, we do have some software installed on our computers that can very well track productivity and also, prevent us from spending a lot of time in outside or external websites. There are some VPNs that we have in place for those that need to have, I guess, a better layer of security. So it has been quite a ride.
Excellent. Someone else? Alejandro.
May I? I don't know. Or go for it.
First.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Such a gentleman. Thank you. Well, so I'm working, it's a Mexican company, actually it's from Guadalajara. Okay. And we have been working from home since March 2020, right? And what I think it's really interesting is that we have this really good practice that each month we call it in Spanish, cercanos a la distancia. So in English will be like closeness even from distance, something like that.
Yeah.
But the main idea is that our CEO, he talks to us about what is going on with COVID-19 and with really good information, like to be accurate. And that it's a space, is like a webinar, a really secure webinar that we can address all our questions, because you can either put your name on it or could it be anonymous. And I'm working as a consultant. So what I do is that I suggest this best practice to my clients in order for them like have this kind of, like right now Jose Luis was saying, like weekly reunions. No, at the beginning it was like this is Scrum daily reunions. So it's really good and important for the CEO and all the directors to be involved in the process and to communicate and to be really clear with us, like what's going on, because at the beginning we were all, panicking and we didn't know what's going on. And it has been like really good to have that communication and confidence and trust. So that's it. Thank you.
So that extra communication allowed you to feel more at ease and also build more trust with them, right?
Exactly. And also because maybe I have one question about, okay, do I have to go back to Guadalajara? Because right now I'm in another city, and what should I do? What's going on with my home and the rent and everything? And maybe I'm not the only one having that question. So in that environment, or what I mean is like, even we do it like Teams, Zoom, whatever, like you only take advantage of the tool, but it's not only you that it's not only one person that it's having like. Oh, yes, definitely. It helps a lot to have that communication and trust worth with your directors in a company.
Excellent. Great point. Alejandro, you had something?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, right now I'm working on my own and several enterprises. It's been really great for me working from home because I have the advantage of taking care of a lot of businesses in my house, in my home office. So it's been a great facilitator because I actually have like real estate in La Paz, Baja California Sur, and a couple other businesses. Even I am a business partner in a firm that specializes in digital signatures and certified documents and everything of the sort. And it's a great place to do business with, because we have the opportunity to give people the tools to develop, to get rid of paperless office. That's one of the perks of this new era. We can get rid of paper. But the second thing, I used to work in government for 14 years in Mexican Institute of Social Security. I actually worked during the pandemic of influenza, and right now I used to work in Social Security Institute when the COVID pandemic hit. So we have to adapt to that new reality, and I thought it went great because we could see that you didn't need to be in the office 14, 15 hours a day. But the thing is that people didn't really accept that new reality, and people got back to the offices, and they don't implement the home office system right now because there's a lot of bad decisions because they think that if you don't see the people working in the office, they're not working. So that's one thing I want to ask you. What can you do to make the managers, the directors, the top leaders to take those actions to show them that it's really working, not just productivity wise, because you can show them that the work is done, but what are the main impact drivers that you can show them that during my home office work, I'm giving these results, and this is giving me better performance.
In which part of the business are you which one of the enterprises are you talking about?
No, like in government right now, it's going swell because I'm the owner of my businesses, so I decide what I do. So, but in government and different enterprises, when they don't adapt to home office, like a lot of people are saying that people don't accept this change. What can you do to convince them, to show them that being on your home office? And I actually was the one that commented that Mexico is the country that works most but has less productivity on the OECD countries, which is shameful because people give you they scold you if you go to home early. Early is at the time you get out. So you have to stay past the 8 hours. You have to work at least 12 hours or when your boss leaves or whatever. So in Mexico, it's really hard to convince people that this is a good change.
So do you guys believe that 12 hours is a half a day of work? Because there's 24 hours in it? No,
I actually work more now in my home office, but because I like it. It's not because there's a saying here in Mexico that it's hora nalga. It's your butt, the time your butt stays in the chair, and you have to be there just to show them that you're there. And even though you're doing nothing and just inventing something to do while I actually think that in other countries, they have the philosophy that if you don't get your work done in those 8 hours, you're not doing a good work. In Mexico, they don't think like that. They think that if you stay more hours, like you stay 15 hours, you're a great worker. You're being productive, which is not at all the case.
So that's a cultural mind shift, right?
Yeah.
But I think to kind of go back and touch on the question, it's similar to Alejandra, as I'm saying that right, what she said, and
Yes.
Rico, is that right? So you've got to have some type of software or some type of system that's going to track your productivity. And then really it's about analyzing. It's looking at it and figuring out what things we can do to make it better, faster, have them work more efficiently to get more productivity out. Because if you're working 12 hours, it's not very effective. Your productivity is going to drop. Statistically, they say that after 4 hours, people's productivity drops and it just kind of starts tanking. And at 8 hours, you're spent. So Isa, you had something?
Troy, sorry, I don't want to stop the conversation, but just to remind you that we have 5 topics to go through, and we still have 15 minutes. So time is getting over, and I just wrote home office, more hours, extra communication, and better performance. So let's continue just to get back to the clock time.
Okay, Isa?
Yes, hello everyone. And I want to talk about home office and productivity. Both, I think that they are really interesting topics. And to be really honest, my home office is only 3 hours per day. I don't work more than 3 hours. They are only 3 hours. And in the company that I work, we are all young university students and also entrepreneurship students. And this is really cool because we only work 3 hours a day, and our productivity, our results are really, really high because all of us had the mission of the company really clear and had all our goals. For example, I put my goals in my month. I usually said like, okay, in this month I have to implement 15% of my productivity. I have to have 3 more clients every day. And in that time, I organize myself in the work, and also time for me to do what I want or what I like to do, to dance, to go to classes, to do sport, to spend time with my family. And all of our team, because in our company, it is not like, oh yeah, the boss, and they are only teams and leaderships. So it is really cool because when the pandemic starts, we start like this. We start working in our homes 3 hours per day. Sorry, I am a little bit nervous to speak in English. But at the end of the month, we have our meetings, and that meetings are like, okay, so Isa, tell me, what do you do in this month? Okay, I do this, I apply this, and this doesn't work for me. So what can I do? And they are really like effective meetings, and it is really cool because all of us, had something to share about, and we are always learning and watching like these courses, and it is really cool. And I don't agree of what Alejandra, Yuriko had told, because this is my first work, and I don't have like a computer from the company. The company doesn't provide me to get or to use data and specific. It is like really, it is fun, but also it is responsible, because we know that some documents or some things we don't have to share, or we don't have to go through them. And that is like really cool, because I think that more than be just like a collaborating company, we form people that are responsible, people that can make their own decisions, and people that are leaders. And I really like to work from home. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's good to hear. Robert, or not Robert, Roberto, right? Can you share with us on issues you've had?
Yes, well, I'll try to be very concise. I have a distributor of medical devices, and since we have been doing medical home office, the main difficulties that I have encountered during these times have been like the lack of motivation. I have it find hard to like keep people motivated all the time. Sometimes like not seeing each other in person, it makes it difficult for people like to feel engaged, like to feel that they are like doing something that it's really like having something that they can, for example, like, to say like to touch. And I haven't found difficult to stay or keep people focused during meetings, online meetings. And sometimes people get distracted with things like, I don't know, people that has babies, that have pets, and they start like making some noise, someone that is ringing the bell. So those kinds of distractions I haven't found difficult for people. And well, I really missed like seeing each other like at a specific time. I know that home office now it's a reality for us and all around the world, but I really like I don't know, like try to see each other like 2 hours every day in a physical space to keep the engagement of people.
Yep. I would agree. I think that rooms might even be helpful. Give them a topic, give them a challenge, something to figure out, put them in breakout rooms, and then have them get into smaller subset groups. And that'll help to keep them motivated, I think. Great. How are we doing on time since I am unable to see the time? Jose?
We still have 6 minutes, so we can change to the other topic, maybe to talk about managed productivity, or maybe virtual hiring, or maybe engagement, or tools and equipment. So we have 1 minute per topic on average, but we can take some time of the Q&A because we still have 15 minutes of Q&A, so we can still like have this conversation talking about this, and to receive maybe 3 or 4 questions of the audience.
Well, would anyone like to give their insight or input on any one of those topics left on the board?
So we have managed productivity, virtual hiring or interviewing, engagement and motivation, and tools and equipment.
Yeah. Go, Alejandra, go, and then, yeah, because we were at the same time. Go for it.
All right, so we'll go around. I'll try to be very brief. So our company does virtual events, so I have a lot of practice on that. I was hired myself remotely, right? When these pandemics started, they needed some people. I think it is possible. I think the tools that we have today really allow us to get to know a person, and it is not really necessary to meet. However, it is important to have that face-to-face conversation through tools like this. As far as the motivation, I believe it really, at least in my case, it really has depended on our leaders. I feel like we have a good leadership team that really understands what it's like to work through a pandemic and to be able to work from home. And so they have been very flexible. So it's kind of like, just letting us take care of our time, just understanding what our responsibilities are. So those would be 2 things that I would like to say.
No, very good. Yuriko?
Perfect. Thank you. Well, in this case for productivity and management, I think that something that helps a lot is to have like monthly KPIs, to have these, well, depends. First of all, to have the OKRs, like this methodology, in order to have all the corporative objectives, and then it will be easier for each collaborator or each person to have their own indicators. And it's important to define it before, like the next month, and to get feedback. And in order for this to work, it's really important to have like either a bonus or a different like salary, so people will be really like to have this commitment. Of course, we want people to do these things or what they need to do because of their work, but in that case, it's also really good to recognize them, as we talked yesterday. Like either you got to your goal or not, like it's important for them to let them know that they are doing the right way. So I see it like this. Like, so it's, you have your indicators, you have your goals, your monthly goals, and then you have all this part that it's possible to know how are they developing and how are they.
Like, don't worry, it's a safe place. Breathe, calm a little bit. It's just a dialogue. We are only going to conversate. This is not an interrogatory, and just keep calm. And I like to do that way the interviews, even though the COVID is really here. I like to do it face to face.
Interesting. Very good. And Alejandro.
Yeah, so I actually believe that you have to have a like the past lectures said that you have to have a great work culture. So being together, it's a really great thing. So I think the best method is being hybrid, like sometimes home office. Before the pandemic, even some well, mostly American big companies like HP and something like that, they actually give 1 day in home office which you can choose. But the thing is, well, my question goes for the outsourcing part of this new opportunity to work home. That since, well, we're taking measures to combat outsourcing practices which are not fair to workers, but that is the context of working in an office in your space. But right now, since we're opening borders, there's even well, I think there might be a concern that outsourcing work to another countries and not giving the people a good contract and give them seniority and all the benefits could make this a little difficult. I actually talked with a company which I think it's really great. I'm not going to say the name but they're a new company which hires people from all over the world to staff your needs, but they hire them in for contract basis. They don't give them all the benefits. They don't give them like the vacations, the year-end bonuses, and all that kind of things. So you don't have a contract which you can like save for retirement. Like you don't have like in USA you have the 401k. Here we have the Social Security or the Afore, and you don't have that opportunity. So if this becomes more often the case that you staff people from other countries, which make people cheaper, it could have a negative impact. I don't know if you guys have that outlook in the US and all over the world.
I think it's kind of case specific. It depends on the companies and their outreach. I know that there's companies here in the United States that are outreaching and outsourcing through different organizations because they're hiring people abroad across seas in different countries. So they utilize companies like that you were talking about, Alejandro.
Yeah, so now we're almost on time. So I don't know if you just want to, to say something very quick per person. Talking about home office, managed productivity, virtual hiring, engagement and motivation, or tools and equipment with this module of use of technology post-COVID. We're gonna hear from the audience also the questions. And I don't know, Troy, let us know what to do this 2 minutes that we have to close.
Well, I don't know. I think we've got a great panel group here. We could keep everybody on, and you guys could even help answer these questions that we get fielded.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Right.
Great.
I'm
So we're going to start with the questions, and Troy asked the leaders, the brave leaders that are here to stay here to answer the questions together. So let's go to the first question that we may have with the group A, B, C, D, or E. Which group? So Ale, please, one question. Where is the mic? Turn it on. And the first question is, yes. There are a lot of questions and they are trying to select one. Yeah, please.
How important it is the leaders are receiving constant training to be better in their areas?
Yeah, can I answer that question?
Sure.
I think it is really, really important because the world and all the technologies, the knowledge, all the world is changing and innovating. And if you don't
¿Sí?
have,
No,
if you don't, oh my God, I forgot the word, but sorry. But if you don't take, or if you don't give to your team or to the leader these activities or these topics, the company is not going to grow. You are going to be like, for example, if you are here and you want to get there and you don't give them or gave them the tools to keep learning, you are going to keep here. You are not going to grow.
Excellent. Nice job, Isa. Roberto, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that it is very important to learn all the days something new, and also to have that to dominate all topics that you do in your work. But because people that sees to you, they need to have the security to feel that confidence in you, and you are only gonna get that confidence once you get to dominate one topic. Otherwise, you will feel like stressed, anxious, and people is gonna notice that, and they are not gonna see you as a leader, and they are not gonna trust, and maybe the organization culture is gonna be less high.
I like what you said, Roberto, about the confidence. Nice point.
So we are ready for the next question, please.
Yeah. Okay, how to handle objectives using home office despite the emotional repercussions that they may cause?
Anybody want to take this one?
Right.
There's a lot of emotional strain on people working at the home office. I know we've experienced it in the United States. Specifically, our teenage suicide has increased rapidly because they don't have that the culture of interacting with other people. But whether it be a mother, a father, a single dad, a single mom, being at home does take an emotional impact. So in Mexico, who would like to take this question? Alejandro.
Oh, actually, the thing you said, not only in the office, but I think that homeschooling, like virtual schooling, that doesn't work. I actually took I got in an MBA, an online MBA, because I was planning to move to the United States a while ago. So if I moved, I could continue online, but I saw that it's not at all the same thing that if you're studying a master's in like like a regular school, that in online, because it's really not the same, and more in higher education. And emotionally, the home office, it can really strain you. Like if you don't take measures, and as you say, give them like good tools and establish a good productivity flow, which gives you the sense of belonging and having interaction with your peers, and not only with your boss, and not only having virtual meetings, which most of the times end up being like that. And most meetings can be an email, like you say, and like the bumper sticker goes. And so emotionally, as I said before, I think hybrid work is the best way to work, because you can go to the office, but you don't have to be in the office all the time. And sometimes you can do some processes better at home. And I think it should go processes based, the work that you establish.
Okay, very good. And Alejandra?
Yeah, sorry, just to kind of address a little bit the question. So how do we handle the reaching the objectives? I think as leaders, it is our responsibility to just continue being very clear in the communication of what is expected and when is expected. Obviously, setting up like realistic objectives of what can potentially be completed or what can be done by not just the individual, but the situation that they're in and stuff like that. So just kind of having that intelligence of being able to know what to expect from whoever we're working with, knowing their emotional state or their family situation and stuff like that. Just kind of depends on everyone, and as a leader, you should be able to identify those things.
Nice point. Very good. And Yuriko?
Yes, like I totally agree with Alejandra. Like it's really important to be really thoughtful. Like you mentioned before, when difficult conversation, it's like yes, the leader will have that responsibility, and also us as either employees or entrepreneurship. It's really important to have self-awareness, like to be possible for you to like understand yourself, like okay, I'm not in my best, so what can I do with that, like either writing or a book, whatever it's needed. So truly what Alejandra said, and also be thoughtful with our peers. We don't know what's going on, and to also right now when I was listening to Alejandra, it's really important to understand, okay, so this is a new person in the company. I'm not going to put some objectives that it's not going possible for he or her to get it, and it will just dismotivate them. So I don't know if that's correct, but it's important to be really, really thoughtful, understanding the whole context, the person, and of course ourselves as leaders and as person.
So we have 5 minutes left, and we still have a lot of questions. So we're gonna go to the next question, please.
Okay, this question is for Troy. If there is something to manage the burnout that the home office may generate?
I think being more engaged with your employees and your team is critical. So the more feedback that you can get, you want to negate that burnout before it happens. And I think that there are companies that have reached that burnout, but the more you can stay engaged, the more you can do follow-up meetings. And I've even seen supervisors, even CEOs, reach out and say, hey, I'm sending you a calendar invite because I want to talk to you. And they just talk with an employee, whether it be a person who's pushing the broom or filing something. And so they have that one-on-one connection, and they let them know, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing. I know this is a difficult time. I know what you're going through. We're struggling on our end. We're dealing with different struggles, but I just want to let you know how much you're appreciated, how much you're valued. And the more frequently you do that and you stay engaged, that will negate any burnout that you may see.
Okay, so let's go for the next question.
Perfect. How will home office change with the Facebook metaverse? With the universe. It says metaverse. Okay,
So
let's change.
Who is the youngest person on our panel?
I think I am.
You think you are? Okay, Isa, I'm going to defer this to you because this is right up your alley as far as the generational stuff.
Okay. Oh my God. Can you repeat the question, please?
So we're gonna ask you, Yuriko, to answer this question in 2 minutes because I need to do the wrap up and then go to the break. So Ale, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. It's how will home office change with the Facebook metaverse?
Okay, so thank you. That means I'm really young. I think like first of all for the HR, like we know the industry is changing, so I don't know, as I see it, is like probably HR will look to your Facebook profile as they look through your LinkedIn profile. And also we have to be really careful with what are we putting in our either Facebook, metaverse, Instagram. And also, I don't know, I think it's a really, I don't see it as a change. I don't know, Troy, you can help me out with this. Like even though I'm a kind of millennial centennial, is the only way, like the hiring process. That's how I see it.
I think you're right on track, Eureka. I think that like LinkedIn is going to be more of a professional social media platform that too, they'll see your LinkedIn profile, but Facebook, as an example, people put some crazy stuff on there. And I think as that opens up and businesses start really looking in that, they're going to find out, I really don't want to hire this person anymore because look what they do on the weekend. Look what their social life's like. So it will be very interesting as time continues.
So I'm so sorry that I took away the microphone to Isa because I thought that was Yuriko. So she was going to answer that question, and I want to pass again the mic to Isa to answer the question that you just said, Troy. I'm so sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, also what Yuriko told us, it is really, it is true, really. Well, I am as a human resources in the company that I work. I really look on Facebook like what kind of person I want in the company to work with us. But it is really extreme. Well, yeah, it is really, really difficult because you cannot define a book with just seeing the title, you know? And sometimes Facebook and the social medias do that. You don't know if the post that you saw on Instagram is the reality. And it is a video in YouTube really interested about the social medias and how they look really good and how they look the life, or for example that how I want to show them a life that I want but I don't have. And it is really interesting because you don't know if the person it is like that crazy or it is just in the moment the person saw a meme and it is like, it is funny, I'm going to share it, you know? And I think it's really difficult this topic about Facebook and how the company sometimes search us. For example, my social medias, I have them all like private. Only my friends can see the stuff that I share and the photos that I share to them. And to companies, sometimes it is like why I cannot see this person? Why can I only see the profile picture? I want to have more information. And I think that the coolest way to do that is or telephone the person or really get an interview with the person so you can see them with no social medias.
Yeah, so thank you very much now, Isa and Yuriko and all of you who are here with us, because I want to wrap up a little bit about what we just talked. And we talk about home office, talking about that people usually are working more hours. We need to have extra communication. And also Alejandro said that that he has better performance after home office. Then in the second topic, we talk about managed productivity. And we said that it was very important to use reports and scorecards and to set indicators. And you set goals as well, and organizational indicators and position or indicators. Then in the third topic, we talk about virtual hiring and interviewing. I don't think we had time to talk about this with this panel. So the tip here is do it. Let's do virtual hiring and interviewing. And some tools that we talk with Troy are Zoom, Google Meet, or any other platform, but be professional with these platforms. So don't use WhatsApp and stuff like that. Then the fourth thing that we talk about is engagement and motivation. So we say weekly meetings, dynamics. You just talk about these gatherings together. Maybe if they are, virtual, but they can happen. So we can have this motivated team, even if it's virtual. And in the fifth part, we talk about tools and equipment, and we didn't have time to get to that point, but Troy and I were talking about new challenges, right? So if we have new challenges, tools, new skills, and here starts another debate about if the company should give the tools, the materials to the person, the computer, the electricity, the internet to that person, right? So I just want to thank to all the leaders that came into this conversation. It was very good. Troy, I don't know if you want to add something else.
No, I would like to echo that today. So every one of you that's on the panel right now, kudos to you. Great job.
Yeah.
And appreciate you guys stepping up. It means a lot. You did a great job. And all of your points were well said. And your English was great too. So don't be nervous about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to switch to Spanish again just to explain you que ya vamos a pasar al break de estos 30 minutos, el long break. Antes quería, bueno, volver al español para decirles nuevamente los avisos que les hemos estado diciendo. El lanzamiento o el pre-launching event, el evento de prelanzamiento del libro La empresa utópica, el negocio de dejar un mundo mejor, es el 16 de diciembre de 4:30 a 7:30. Y los líderes les van a empezar a mandar los links para que se puedan inscribir. Es una invitación exclusiva y su código de inscripción es LIN21, LIN21, que es Liderazgo Internacional. Aquí se los voy a escribir. Este es el código LIN21. Tienen que poner este código para que les demos acceso al evento. Nora, si me puedes hacer aquí zoom de una vez aquí a esto para que ellos lo puedan ver. LIN21 es el código de referencia de este evento. Entonces, bueno, con todo esto decirles y recordarles que también en este evento que va a ser transmitido desde la Biblioteca Pública del Estado de Jalisco, que bueno, también ahí vamos a estar en conjunto con el consulado, tenemos confirmada a Marisa Lazo, que es fundadora de Pastelería Marisa, que sale en como Shark en Shark Tank, que va a estar ahí con nosotros y ustedes se tienen que inscribir, no es invitación directa, se tienen que meter ahí para poder ganar este acceso y recordarles que tienen que sacar 90 sobre 100. Oye, nos van a dar chance. Al momento, los que saquen 90 sobre 100 tienen su certificado, su acreditación y posteriormente el 13 de enero de 4 a 6 hay un follow-up, un seguimiento de estas sesiones. Entonces, bueno, el tiempo no nos ha alcanzado, ¿verdad? Y nos queda solamente un módulo para terminar y tenemos que estar aquí de regreso a las 6:35 porque Troy nos va a estar hablando acerca de Communication Wheel, una rueda de la comunicación, un diagrama ahí muy interesante que nos va a presentar. Entonces, 6:35 en punto, regresamos con esta transmisión, esperando pues que estén disfrutando este programa y que sigan poniendo ahí sus preguntas en los grupos de WhatsApp a través de sus líderes. Muchísimas gracias.